Okay, so uh, we're up to Ois Dalet, and the Rebbe was explaining before that the Mayim Rabim, these great waters, not only do they not have an ability to disrupt and take away from the Ahava Musuteres that a Yid has, they cannot take away from that. But now the Rebbe is going to explain, actually, the person gets a higher level through the fact that there are all these tirdes haparnose, that he has the distraction. Generally speaking, because of the obstacles and because just like when the neshama comes down into this world, it can reach the level of teshuvah because it's not anymore above, but when it comes down below, it can reach to return, and that return brings it to a higher level. The same thing is this Mayim Rabim brings it to a higher level. Let's look inside. Dalit. V'hinem behold, lo zu bilvat. Not just this alone. She'ein b'yichayles hamayim rabim hanal. That the great waters that we spoke about before don't have the ability lechabes chaz v'sholem es ha'ava shel neshama, to God forbid extinguish the love of the soul. Not only do they not have the power, these Mayim Rabim, to extinguish the love of the neshama, Eli say to Mizu, but it's even more than that. She'al yodom, it is through the Mayim Rabim Nasa Yisrain Beha'ava, that actually makes up an advantage in the love. The love becomes greater. It's like some places the Rebbe writes, Vatorem Hateva al Hamayim, the ark raised on top of the water. So the waters, not only do they not extinguish, but they actually make it a greater and a higher love. Who, and that is Shal Yidei Yiridas HaNeshama. Lamata Be'olam Hazeh, through the Neshama descending below in this world. V'hislap Shuso, and it dresses up. B'mayim Rabim Hanal, in the great waters that we spoke about before in this world where there is all this distraction. There is the floods and there is the waters. Through the descent of the neshama, she reaches to a higher madrege, more mimadregoso, koidem yiridoso lamato, more than her level, the step the neshama was before she came down below. So the Mayim Rabim, not only do they not take away, but they actually help the neshama come to a higher level of love. And this is actually the purpose. That's the purpose of all of these floods. The purpose of going in Olam Hazed, the neshama coming down, and to meet the challenges, is taka for that purpose, to go up in a higher level. V'zehu tachlis hakavoneh shel Mayim Rabim. This is the ultimate intent of the Mayim Rabim Hanal. And because the great waters want and their purpose is to elevate the neshama, that's why they don't extinguish the love of the neshama. V'lochein soif soif. That's why on the end, ein b'yicholtom l'chabes es ha'ava. They don't have the ability to extinguish the love. Lefi, and that is because shetachlis because the ultimate depth of the intent, what is the intention of this Mayim Rabin themselves, it's not to extinguish, it is it's in order to impact addition to the love. So the waters aren't going to distract the person, because the purpose of the waters and the intent, the deep inside them, the purpose, even though all these distractions seem to be to take away from the person's love, but their ultimate goal is not to take away. The ultimate goal is to increase the love. And that's why they don't actually extinguish, they don't have the ability to extinguish the love. Because they themselves' purpose is for the person to overcome these distractions. And what is in the level of service of Hashem, the advantage, the elevation that takes place to the soul through her descent below, and dressing up in these mayim rabim, the great waters, that it comes to tshuva. Now in avodah, the neshama now has the level of teshuva. The level of teshuva is a higher level than the level of tzaddikim. Before the neshama comes down below in Olam Hazeh to meet the distractions, the neshamas were tzaddikim. But when it comes down into this world and it has to battle, then it becomes a level of Baal Tshuva. That's in Avodah that happens to the neshama. Do as it's known, Shaneshama is koidem yiridosam leguf, before they come down to the body. Heim b'bchinas tzadikim gemurim. They're in a level, they're complete tzadikim. V'hayisrein shenase bohem al yidei yiridosam begufu. So what is the advantage that takes place to the neshamas through the fact that they descend into the body? Hu shenasim b'bchinas bal tshuva. Now they become on a level of Baal Tshuva. Now, Baal Tshuva is they call it Baal Tshuva. Baal Tshuva is higher than a tzaddik. Not only is he higher, but a tzaddik is not even able to stand where a Baal Tshuva stands. So we say, so they become Baal Tshuva by coming down. Asher b'mokim Baal Tshuva, in a place where Baal Tshuva Emdim, that they stand, the Baal Tshuva, Tzadikim Gemurim Einam Emdim. The great Tzadikim don't stand there, which means they're not standing in the same place. Not only are they not practically standing there, they can't, they're not even able to stand there. They are not able to stand boy in the place of Baal Tshuva. There's one thing to say, well, they're not at the same level. They're in a higher level. There's another thing that we're saying, tzadikim en yicholim, they don't even have the ability to stand there. It's not even in their potential, not even in the ability. So that happens to the neshama when it comes down. It comes to the level. Now it's about tshuva versus before being a tzaddik. Now it's about tshuva. And this is the reason why the soul descended below. There is the inyan hatshuva, because the idea of teshuva. Now here we're talking about tshuva, not necessarily somebody who's done averis, so he has to do teshuva. We're talking about the concept of teshuva, of returning your soul to Hashem. So l'chayre, why do we have teshuva in this world? The person didn't do anything wrong. He went down to this world. Why could he only be about teshuva in the context of returning the soul while he is down here in this world? Why can't he do teshuva when he's up there? Because in this, teshuva means to return to the place. But if he's in the place, there's nowhere to return to. To get to the level of teshuva, it has to come down into this world. So he says, Ki inyan hatshuva, because the idea of teshuva, hagam she'eino al avedis dafki, even though we're not talking about avedis. If we talk simply about avedis, of course, the neshama has to come down here in order to do teshuva. But when we're talking about teshuva, we're not just talking about doing a sin, we're talking teshuva about returning the neshama. Ki im hashavas hanefesh limekoira v'shorsha. We're talking about teshuva to return the soul to its source and its root. But that also shayich davke kasher einoi nimtza b'mekoimoy ha'amiti. That can only apply that level of teshuva, bring the level of the nefesh to its root and source. It's only when the nefesh is not b'mekoimoy ha'amiti. It's not its true place, which is mekoira v'shorsha, its source and root. Then you can say you can bring it back. But if it's in its source and its root, there's nowhere to bring it back. It's right there. Sha'oz shayich sheyoshuv l'shorsha mekoira. Then it applies that it should return to its source and its place. Bechinas baruach toshuv el ha'elikim asher nisana. The level that the pasuk says, the spirit returns to Elikim Asher Nisana. So you're bringing it back to the level of Elikim that gave it. So you can only return it if it's not in the place where it's source. If it's in the source, there's nowhere to return it to. How about tshuva? And since the advantage of the Baal Tshuva is greater than the milas of tzaddikim, so we're saying the Baal Tshuva is greater than tzaddikim. So it must mean if the neshama was in the level of tzaddikim before it came down, it comes down into the world, then it has the level of tshuva. And the level of tshuva is a greater level, so it must be greater, goes back higher than the tzaddikim were before. Because it's greater, yoser miles tzaddikim. The difference between a Baal Tshuva and a tzaddik is uncomparable. It's way higher. Shalochem, for that's why we say Mokim Shabali Tshuva Oimdim Ein Tzadikim Gemurim Yicholim Lamed Boy, that the place where Bala Tshuva stand, the complete tzaddikim are not even able to stand there. Kinal, as we said before. So Lochein. So now we have the level of tshuva. The neshama coming down into this world reaches to the level of tshuva. That's why it makes it in a higher level. Lochein al yidei inyan hatshuva shemischadish v'haneshama biridoso lemato. So that's why through the idea of teshuva that is renewed, it's something new in the neshama. The neshama reaches the level of tshuva biridoso lemato when it descends below. Hadehi misalis yoser, then it is elevated more. Also more than it was in its root lechatchila, which it was a tzaddik, but about tshuva makes it higher. B'chinas ha'elikim asher nesona, haruach toshuv el elikim. You go back asher nesona all the ways to the top, to the highest level, which is even higher than the level of tzaddik. So what is shaykhs to say, really, the Rebbe is going to discuss. So we're saying now, the level of teshuvah comes through going down in this world. That's the level of teshuvah, ilam hazeh, and also the ma'im rabim. The challenges bring you to the level of teshuvah, a higher elevation than before. But what could be a higher elevation than the level of tzaddikim? The Eibishter consulted the tzaddikim about creating the world. That means everything that Hashem creates, he consulted the tzaddikim. Tzaddikim are on the highest level. What is it pshat? What does it mean that Baal Tshuva go even to a higher level, even higher than the level in which Hashem decides what to do, all the Giluyim? I mean, where does it go? Hey, Agam sheshoyresh haneshomis, hu batzmus yizborich, the root of the neshama, is the blessed Atzmus, shelamayla mikol hagiluyim, which is higher than all revelations, which means neshamas are not any level, any part of any of the revelation, any giluyim. Neshamas are in Atzmus. What's the proof? Because the neshamas are consulted about giluyim, so that they are higher than giluyim. Could the muchach gam also evidence mimasha amr razal, from the fact our rabbis of blessed memory say, "B'minim lach b'nishmeisayim shel tzadikim." Who did Hashem consult the souls of the tzadikim? Which means when Hashem wanted to create the world, He consulted the souls of the tzaddikim. So they must be all the ways in the atzmos because He's consulting them about giluyim. She'inyan ha'mlocha, because this idea of deciding that consulting, hu gam al giluyim achinaylim, this is even on the greatest giluyim. All of the giluyim that come are something that Hashem wants to. He's not forced to them. So He's consulting, should He do it or not? There's no giluyim that are just coming. He decides. Who helps Him decide? The neshamas. How they move on. Shahaneshamas shobahem nimlach, that those souls to which He consulted, hem l'mayla mikol hagiluyim, they are above of all these revelations. So where are the neshamas going to go higher than they are already in Atzmus? Their root is in Atzmus. But yet, Shaykh Loimar, still it applies, we can say, Shayidei ha'teshuva biridosam lamato, that through the level of tshuva that they get when the neshama descends below, nasis bahem aliyah, there is an elevation that takes place by them, gam legabe hadarge shahoya b'shorsham, also relative to this step, to the level that the war in the root, in Atzmus, which Hashem consulted, they go even higher than that. How is that? So he says that the brings down a moshul that the Yidden are on the highest level of the soul of Hashem's thought. So he says like this: "B'yuvon zeh, apima shekosuv harava magid." We can understand it based on what the Magid explains. Bepirush Maimer Azal, he explains the saying of our sages of blessed memory. We say, Yisrael olu b'machshava. The Yidden entered the thought. Hashem, the Yidden entered Hashem's thought. So how does the Magid explain it? He explains it with a moshul. Shu kemoshul odom sheyesh lo ben. For a person to think about a son, the son has to be created already so that the king, that the father or the person can think about his son. He has to have a son. He can't think about a son before he is there. But the Eibishter could think about the son, about the Yidden, about Yisrael, even before they're there. So when a person has a son, sheyesh le ben, so the gam kisha ben ovar mikeneged ponov b'holach meitoi, even when his son left, he's no longer facing him, and he left him. Im kol zeh, and still nechkiko hatzura shel haben b'machshava shel ha'av, the form of the son has been engraved in the thought of the father. In the father's thought, his son is still there. The son may not be physically in front of him, but the machshava, the thought, has his son ingrained there. But by a person, in order to have his son in the machshava, there has to be a son. But the Eibishter can have the son in the machshava even before there is a son. Elo, shebibnei adam, by human beings, shayich zed dafke, this can only apply b'mi sheyesh lo ben chulu, one who has a son. If you have a son, you can have your son in your machshava. But by the blessed Hashem, we can say this even before the Yidden were created. Their image has been engraved in Hashem's thoughts, so to speak. That means Yisrael olu b'machshava. They entered Hashem's machshava, meaning they're engraved in Hashem machshava, even before they're there. As our sages say, Yisrael olu b'machshava. They entered his thought. How could they enter his thought if they're not yet been created? Ki etzlo yizborech ha'ovar ve'ha'osid echad, because by Hashem blessed, the past and the future is really one. It doesn't really separate the past and the future. So the fact that they will be created later, but he has them in his mind l'chatchila. Umuvan mezeh. So from this we understand. So now we're saying that the Yidden are in the level of machshava. They're ingrained in Hashem's machshava. So what do we understand from this? The fact that we're saying that the souls are rooted in his blessed atzmus and he consulted them, so that the neshama's root is in atzmus chulu. Those are neshamas as they are already in the level of created. And as the neshama come down below. So when we talk about the neshama in its created state, and later on that created neshama goes down below, and that level of the neshama, that's the level which Hashem consulted. That's the level. But v'rak shegam tzura zu, but also that tzura zu, this tzura, what it is, he chakuka b'machshavto yizborech, that is engraved. In other words, that is in actuality when they're created. But we're saying even before creation, in the machshava, in the thought, they're already there. That's also engraved in Hashem's thought, which means lepoyel mamish, that's the created, that's a neshama. But you have the neshama the way it's engraved in Hashem's mind, in Hashem's machshava, thought. Because by him, blessed, the past and the future is the same. So by that level where the future and the past is the same, the level of Hashem's machshava, so to speak, over there, that's the higher level of the neshama. And as it's known, what is the meaning that Hashem consulted? How did Hashem consult them? What does it mean that Hashem consulted? That means that Hashem, imagine, so to speak, it went up before Hashem, he's going to get pleasure in the avodas haneshama lamato. That push, sort of, that gave him the decision to make Neshamas Yisrael because of the great pleasure that he was going to have for Neshamas Yisrael. So, Vapizeh Yuvan Inyan Ha'aliyah Shenase B'Haneshamas Al Yidei Yiridos Lamato. So now we understand the elevation that the Neshamas takes place through the descent below. Hagam shegam lifnei yiridosim hey mushroshes b'atzmusa yizborich. Even though that before they come down, they are still rooted in the blessed atzmus. But there is not kizeh mashay mushroshes b'atzmusa yizborich ubahem nimlachulu. So why are they rooted in the blessed atzmus and he consoles them? Umitzad yidiosa yizborich is because Hashem's blessed. He knows shetia achakach yiridosam lematochulu v'yashlimu hakavone. He knows that later on they're going to come down below and they're going to fulfill the intention, and therefore he is decides to create the world because that he knows what's going to be in the future. It's not a question whether they're going to do it. We know for sure in the beginning that they will do the intent when they go down. But that's only potentially. The ultimate advantage and the intention is in actuality. Before Hashem knows what they're going to be doing, that in the future they're going to do the mitzvahs, he knows it for sure, but they haven't done the mitzvahs yet. They've not been in this world yet. That comes because of Hashem's knowing what will be later on. When do you actually have the poil mamish, the kavon of doing it, is when they come down in this world. So b'zehu, so basically, the Rebbe explained that what the Magid says, Nimlach b'nishmeseim shel tzadikim, we explained, what does it mean just consulting Mosheseim shel tzadikim? It means because Hashem knows in the past what's going to be in the future, and that means in Atzmus, in Hashem's machshava, this is all Nimlach, this is all because Hashem knows what's going to happen in the future. But this is not the same as what actually takes place when the neshama comes down. Because when the neshama comes down, it's actually happening versus the potential or the knowledge of Hashem. It's over there potential. But over here we have the poil mamish. So that's why the level of teshuvah is in a higher level than the level of biminimlach, the level of the machshava, because that's only thought. Here it comes down in poil mamish. V'zehu gam diuk haloshin biminimlach b'nishmeseim shel tzadikim. That's why we say he consulted the souls of tzadikim. Why the souls of tzadikim? Because at that point, it was only potential that they're going to do. He knew in his thought what they're going to do later on. It's nimlach, but it didn't come b'peil mamish. Shebeyoysam b'bchinas ha'amlocha. When they are in the stage, in the level of consulting, sha'oz ha'ilu shalahem ubekoyach. Then their advantage is potential that they are on that level. That it's known, we know that they're going to do the kavana and they're going to, so that's why he creates the world. But the level tzaddikim. But after they come down lamato, that is when they actually fill the kavana. In actuality, nasim b'mchinas ba'al tshuva. That's why they'll come to ba'al tshuva. So what the Rebbe explains over here is that while the shoyresh neshama is in atzmus and nimlach by them, and it's in the Eibusher's machshava, and he knows for sure that they're going to do the mitzvah. This is all still the level of tzaddikim. This is all the level of potential. It is only when it comes down the mata, the poil mamish, that they fulfill the kavanah, which is the real level of tshuva, which brings them at the higher level. V'yesh lekasher zeh vov. We can tie this im inyan de v'Yaakov holach ledarkei, to connect it to the idea that Yaakov went on his road shebemoitzi Shabbos parshas Noach. This is the mimer that Rebbe gave on Motzi Shabbos Parshas Noach, in which the people are leaving from all the inyonim of the Yom Tov, and they're going on their way, and it breaks down in the note. It's even more than a Parshas Breis. The Hagam shel achrei chodesh Tishrei. Although that after the month of Tishrei, he goes along his path. You're starting optional matters, work of the weekdays, till you come to the level of the great waters. Through that itself, he becomes higher. You become in the level of a mahalach that you're also going, which is the aliyah of, of already lechlecha. So it is a level of mahalach, because through this reaches a higher level. L'shoin hakosu, at the pasuk the Yaakov holach ledarka. So now, when you're going ledarka, you're getting involved in optional matters, weekly matters. Then you become a walker, then holach. And knowing this, knowing this, that this descent going into your path in optional matters, is for the purpose of an elevation. This impacts that this going should be with happiness and good heart. Like it says by Yaakov, he raised his legs. And Rashi teaches over the mission is once Hashem gave him the good news that he's going to protect him, he's going to be with him. So then by Yisro, he went happy, knowing that there's going to be a mahalech. Person leaves Parshas Noach, Yaakov holach, he goes with simcha. This impacts that his service should be in total wholesomeness, and beyond any measure and limitation. It'll be bechinas b'chol moedecha, all your being, simcha poiretz kol hagedorim, because joy breaks through all limitations, all boundaries. V'al yidei she'oived avedose, and by serving his work, b'chol hagimel kavim, in all the three lines, Torah Aveda Gimel Chasodim, represented by Gimel B'nei Noach, the three sons of Noach, the Parashat Noach, which is the Torah Aveda Gimel Chasodim, Betachlis Hashlemus Ubesimcha B'tuv Leivov, in its total completeness and with joy and good heart. Nimshech Lo Gam Birchas Havaya, also the blessing of Hashem is extended to him. B'chol HaMitztarech Lo, in everything that he needs. in Gimel Inyonim, also in the three matters. Boni, children, Chayi, life, Umzoin, and sustenance. Betachlis Hashlemus, in the total, in complete, ultimate wholesomeness. Ubesimcho, Betuv Levov, with joy and gladness of heart. So all of these, the three avodas brings the three joys to the person. Hein beruchnis, hein begashmis, both spiritually and physically. Uberuchnis, ubegashmis, gam yochad, and spiritually and physically together. All right. Okay. Hello?
Okay.
Okay. See you soon.
Yes.